Welcome, my heart singers. How you guys doing today? It's Super John Bombo here, and today on Bloons Super Monkey 2, we're going to talk about all of the core upgrades and all of the epic core upgrades. I've made videos individually on all of these upgrades and kind of just talked about each one, showed them off a little bit, showed a little bit of gameplay, and kind of, let you guys decide if you think it's good for you. But today, I want to throw all of my opinions down in one single video about all of these upgrades, hopefully to help you decide which one you should actually end up getting. So I'm going to go over the Dart Bomb, Energy, Rings, Magic, and then the other two are the Ice and the Storm. So there's 7 upgrades in total. Let's get started here. So the way I want to do this, I want to start talking about all of the regular core upgrades first and kind of explain which ones I like the most. And then we're going to go over the epics afterwards. So for just like the regular core upgrade over here, we got Spiky Burst. Realistically, what he does is he shoots out like a couple Juggernaut shots just right around him. Doesn't go all that far. If you get up in the action, you're in and around these balloons all over the place. It can do a pretty reasonable amount of damage, especially to ceramic balloons, dude. 2 times damage to ceramics. Only real weakness is lead balloons, which are not that common, so it doesn't matter all that much. Overall, a fairly good upgrade, especially because it's cheap. So if you want to start off with the Dart core, I wouldn't mind. I would say, hey man, go ahead. That's totally fine. Nice cheap upgrade to get very, very good very, very quickly. But by the time you get to the end of the game, I think there's better upgrades to go for. Moving on, we've got the Bombs core, which is kind of okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's too random. I like very consistent popping power where I know how many balloons are going to get popped that are going to shoot out the same way every single time, but the bombs, they kind of fly out every which way all over the place, and they're just too random for me to actually end up liking them. Really what happens, though, is you get Mega Fruit, which shoot out obviously explosions. They just shoot out pineapples. They sit there for like a split second, and then they explode. So, they're okay. And they do a good amount of damage. If you're gonna fight like a boss or a level with a ton of grouped ceramics, like okay, be my guest, maybe check these guys out. But in general, bombs are just too random for me, and they just don't work out all that well. Energy, this is actually my favorite. So I want to point that out. Energy is my favorite. I'm a little bit biased. I've used energy since the very beginning of the game. It's probably I think it's the most expensive upgrade. But I think it's well worth it. It does shoot at a beam straight forward, but it shoots out a ton of these beams. So you're talking about like 1 beam, increased fire rate, larger beam, 2 energy beams, 5 energy beams, and then we got 5 freaking energy beams flying out right now. It's ridiculous. It is. It's very, very ridiculous. Shooting at 5 energy beams that can do really good damage against ceramics and leads and regular balloons, and even shield balloons does pretty good damage against them. The only real weakness is glass balloons. The energy cannot pop the glass balloons, but glass balloons are not that common, so it doesn't matter. Especially if you get some like dart arms or something else that can pop glass balloons, it shouldn't matter all that much. So energy is my favorite, and I do recommend energy, but again, I can understand that you might not want to go energy if you really, really like one of these other core upgrades. Rings. I was actually very upset with how bad rings were. I tested them out, and just, again, the regular upgrade, the rings couldn't do enough damage. That's the main thing. They just didn't do enough damage. They couldn't do anything against ceramics or anything like that. But early game, they were actually pretty decent. So when I say early game, I mean like anything up to around like 20, 25, something like that. You could do a pretty decent job because as soon as they touched a balloon, they like jumped to other balloons. So it's kind of like a Seeking Shuriken, as if you got up in the action. But once you got further on, you just couldn't pop enough balloons, and it made it sort of like a bad upgrade, and just not worth it to spend that much money to have something that's only good for a little while. So, rings, blah, blah. Magic. Alright, so this is another one. I didn't like it at all. I actually kind of hated it. It was pretty darn awful, if you ask me. This last one here is the Lightning Ring, which basically all it does is has this little ring, very small actually, a very small ring around you, and if you get up on top of the balloons, it does very little damage. Very little damage. Like you can be like it'll be like less damage than like a red hot aura damage around you, but it also does some chain lightning from this one. So it's the Lightning Rod and the Lightning Storm. These two like last mage upgrades do end up doing a pretty reasonable amount of damage, but the actual like intense ring core damage is just awful, absolutely awful, and the lightning can't make up for it. Lightning does a decent job of trying to make up for it, but it just can't. It doesn't pop enough balloons. So the mage core is quite awful. So the only two that I've actually really liked so far are the darts and the energy. I know, core upgrades, you're thinking, wow, they should be pretty darn even, should be pretty fair. No, they're not really. Well, there's only a couple good ones. So moving on, we got to talk about the Ice Monkey over here, guys. So let's go over here and talk about these core upgrades. So, this one, the only one different is, of course, the ice. We got to talk about the ice and the storm. So this one was actually pretty interesting. I personally don't really like the Ice Monkey all that much. Mostly because I think, well, if you're using frozen stuff, you can't pop zebra balloons and white balloons, which are two of the most common balloons in the game. So that's like, oh man, that's just like too many weaknesses for me to think it's worthwhile to upgrade my my Ice Monkey. But at the same time, the Ice Core was actually pretty darn cool. What it did is basically it adds a lot of stuff cool as well. So like you have like a freezing flurry, freezes balloons, and it doesn't affect white or zebra. So that's again the biggest issue with it is it doesn't affect white or zebra, which are very very common balloons. But once you get like higher, freezes more balloons, increases range, freezes more balloons, and when you finally get all the way up to this highest tier upgrade, you get an extra forward firing spray on top of freezing all the balloons in a gigantic radius around you. And I say gigantic because it is way bigger than a lot of these other core upgrades. Bigger than Juggernaut, way bigger than Mage, way bigger than Rangs too? Yeah, even bigger than Rangs. It's just gigantic. It's kind of hard to tell where the cutoff is because it's like so snowy and weird looking. But overall, it's a very, very solid upgrade, freezing those balloons and giving you more time to pop them. You don't even have to get that close. It's just like anywhere on the screen, man. Just freaking freeze these guys. As long as you're within like a half the map, you're going to be able to freeze these guys. So yeah, a really nice upgrade. But again, because you have to use him on the Ice Monkey, I don't know if it's worthwhile to end up getting him. But if you like the Ice Monkey already, go for that Ice Core, man. Go for it. I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. And the last guy is the Storm Monkey over here. And we got to talk about the Storm Core. I didn't like it. I don't really understand why I don't like it. It should be better. It just wasn't. I think the thing, again, about the Storm Monkey was that he was just too darn random. Like when he shot stuff, like the whirlwind just didn't do enough damage overall. It was just like doing stupid stuff and shooting balloons in different areas in different ways, and actually made it harder for me to get diamonds and stuff. It was making me struggle against random balloons on the screen, and I just didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy random balloons flying off the screen. It was very upsetting. So yeah, again, the only two real good weapons for your core are darts and energy, and honestly, energy is probably better because you get to sit in the back and just let everything flow up to the top of the screen. Highly recommend energy. So, that's all of the regular upgrades. Now I want to talk about the epic upgrades. This is where it gets kind of interesting because you can only have one epic core upgrade. Like normally you can be like, oh, well, if you combine arms in two different ways, they can be, really, really good. This one you only got one core epic. And it's kind of confusing too because some of them are like only useful in certain situations. So on certain levels they'll be good and certain levels they'll be bad. So it's kind of hard to tell you this one's good, this one's bad. It's like some of them are just different in different situations. It's kind of different for the regular core though. I don't think there's like different, better in different situations and whatnot. I think they're just like bad or they're good for the most part. So you kind of like base everything off of your core and then build the Super Monkey around your core upgrade. I think that's how you should kind of build your Super Monkey. Here we go. This is the, let's go over the epic over here. The epic storm. So the Tempest Tornado hits everything on the screen and damages and blows balloons. Okay. Hits everything on the screen. Psht. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. Like, yeah, maybe a little bit. But, like, doesn't even look like it damages it all that much. And even if it does, it's like the most minute amount of damage I've ever seen. And it kind of just blows everything all over the place in stupid areas. And I'm like, what the heck? You're blowing balloons off the screen. Can't even hit him anymore. So I was getting kind of angry with this epic upgrade. I just did not like it. Again, the Storm Monkey. Think he's going to be like, the third monkey, the best monkey. Did not like his upgrades. Not a big fan. Don't get me wrong. I think you might be able to use him in some efficient way that I just maybe don't understand or don't. Maybe I'm ignorant of how I'm supposed to play him. I couldn't get it. I didn't understand him. Okay, let's move on to this Moab. So, instantly destroys all balloons, big damage to boss and Moab balloons. Holy crap, is this thing freaking crazy sauce. Insta-kills all balloons on the screen, and its cooldown is only like 15 seconds. Like, some balloons stay on the screen for like 15 seconds, and you're going to insta-kill these guys. Insta-kill. Really, really solid, and does extra damage to Moabs and stuff like that. If you just go to level 50 and you just use this guy on the last boss, just poop, they're all dead. You know what I mean? You don't kill the boss, but like you just do mega damage with this thing. The only real issue that I have with this thing is that it has like some latency. So when you press the button, it doesn't just insta-kill everything. It takes like 3 seconds or so. Like the pineapple like runs to the middle of the screen and then like waits 2 seconds and then like counts down and explodes. So yeah, it does take a little while. So you kind of might have to read it a little bit. You can't just use it exactly when all the screens are on, all the balloons are on the screen. But at the same time, it's just so darn powerful that it doesn't really matter all that much. Moving on to the Ice Monkey over here. For our epics, we've got the Lightning Trail, which leaves an electrified trail and does high damage. This is a weird one. I'm pretty sure it damages ceramic balloons, which is not what magic stuff is supposed to do. So that was interesting. You know, it's like it really doesn't have a weakness in that sense. Normally, the epic upgrades do have some sort of weakness to them, at least, but this magic does not have a weakness, and that's the solid thing about it. But the cooldown was just as long as I think the Moab, you know, the exploding pineapple, and for not being an insta-kill, I would have to say that it's definitely not as good as that. Though, it does tend to stay on the screen for a little bit longer, and you kind of get to control it, so that's kind of nice as well. Like the pineapple, you just use it, you don't get to really control it, it just kind of happens. This guy, you can actually control the lightning trail. You can kind of like write your own name or whatnot and make the lightning trail however you want it to be. So if you kind of just make a really good swirl all over the screen, literally every balloon on the screen for as long as this thing lasts will end up dying. So I liked it. I did. I actually surprisingly liked it. I wouldn't say it's the best, but if you're already building full-on mage for your guy, I would test it out. I would at the very least test it out and see how you enjoy using it. But you have to go and check out my video on the mage upgrade to confirm whether you like it or not. Because again, it's weird. It's an odd one. I think it's something you have to get good with to make it actually be used effectively. Then we've got the Shard Storm. So this is very, very similar to the Dart Monkey Epic. But I think this one's a little bit worse than the Dart Monkey Epic. I really can't explain it all that much. All it does is it shoots shards all over the screen, usually popping most of the balloons on the screen, but once you get to those higher tier balloons, ceramics and stuff like that, you just don't even do that much damage. You do a decent amount, but you just don't do enough. And I still think it doesn't pop zebras and white balloons and stuff like that, so that was kind of upsetting that didn't happen. I'm not positive. You know what? I take that back. I think I might be able to. But it just didn't do as much damage as the Juggernaut, and I was just like, I'm just going to take it off the table, because why the heck would I even talk about this thing if the Juggernaut's better? Just use the Juggernaut Epic instead. But, of course, the Ice Monkey doesn't have the Juggernaut Epic, so you can't really do that if you really, really like the Ice Monkey. So, it's kind of like a worse version of the Dart Monkey Epic, but still okay, and if you want to, go ahead and use it. So, last but not least, we've got this regular Dart Monkey over here, regular Super Monkey. And we got to talk about these epics. There's 3 more to go. We've got Sidekick. Poop on a stick, man. Very upset with this thing. I didn't understand it. Basically, what it does is I'm pretty sure somebody told me that it adds 2 extra plasma shots that shoot up into the like other plasma beam, and you just don't really notice it because you already have your energy weapon going. I didn't notice that. I'm not positive if they're lying to me or not, but I don't think that actually happens. I think he just shoots out 2 like little tiny energy whips, and they're just bad. They're really expensive and they're bad. I didn't like the Sidekick. I feel like he should have way larger energy whips, or should be, at the very least, be in front of you instead of behind you. Being behind you it makes him awful. Absolutely awful. I do not recommend the Sidekick whatsoever. He's poop on a stick, for sure. We've got Mass Distraction over here. So this one's actually kind of a fun one. Basically, it's one of the only ones that actually stuns the balloons as an epic upgrade, I think. I think it might be. So anyways, what it does is just stuns all the balloons on the screen, allows you more time to pop them. So if you have like a part on the level with just like a crazy amount of ceramic balloons, use this upgrade, and then hopefully you can kill them all. And honestly, I think it's pretty darn solid. I really do enjoy it. The only problem is it doesn't add any extra popping power. You know what I mean? So if you are struggling with just overall popping power, like if this thing is gone and you need to pop more balloons, it's not going to pop any extra balloons. It's just going to slow them down to let your other upgrades kind of do the work for you. So if you don't have any other good upgrades with it, it's not going to do anything. Very, very solid, though, overall. I mean, I actually had, at one point, I used it. the Bloons got stunned for so long that it allowed me to get this upgrade back, and I used it again on the same Bloons, and I was just popping them like crazy. So yeah, it was very, very nice to see this guy, but for a core upgrade, I don't know, I just kind of expected something a little bit better, I guess. I don't know, the core epics were just not that good to me. I just didn't like them all. Like, all of them were just like, meh at best. And the last one, the Spiky frickin' Chaos. Very happy with the Spiky Chaos. Honestly, I'd recommend the Spiky Chaos to just about anybody. Shoots spiky balloons all over the frickin' screen, popping mostly all of the balloons on the screen, except in special circumstances, and it comes back really quick. So, like, you really just can't complain at all about the Spiky Chaos. But anyways, the only two real ones that I actually enjoyed were, actually three. There's the Moab, this Mass Distraction, and the Spiky Chaos. And that's pretty much it. So the darts, the rings, and the bombs are like the three good epic core upgrades. And it's kind of up to you which one you end up enjoying the most. If you want to just insta-kill all the balloons and get it over with. If you want to stun all the balloons, letting your other arm upgrades and core upgrades actually do the work and popping those guys, go with the Mass Distraction. And if you just want some extra popping power that comes back very, very quickly, Spiky Chaos is the way to go. Spiky Chaos is usually my choice because I get instantaneous popping power, instantaneous relief, and it just makes me feel good, and it comes back really quickly so I can use it again, and it makes me happy. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys have any suggestions on videos you want to see with Bloons Super Monkey 2, make sure you throw them down in the comments below, and have a super duper delicious day.